Hi everyone, my name is Ms.MOe and I'm a software engineer, and welcome to Ms.MOe's Techtainment. I'm like, ooh, let me stop. Okay, so I was actually gonna hold off on vlogging tech videos until I have a few of my other segments ready, but per request from a lot of people that want help with coding and how to get started, I'm just gonna do it for the people. So bear with me. This is like one of my first times vlogging, and particularly a tech vlog. Oh yeah, and before we start, if you do want to keep up with more tutorials and the PowerPoints that I'm going to be creating, just follow me at Mo Techtainment. That's M-O-E Techtainment. And if anything, you can email me. I'll just leave it in the description below. Like, share, subscribe. And to get back on topic, I'm basically going to get from start to finish on how to code a simple website. Let's do that. So this comes from working with text editors, the terminal, connecting servers, and potentially helping everyone get to publish their first websites. Bear with me. I am kooky at times, so everything's not going to be as professional, but I'm going to try. With that being said, yes, I know I have on a do-rag, but I'm still cute. And yes, I know my nails are chipped, okay? So it's not about presents right now. It's about actually getting this code down packed. So let's get started. Why are we in this digital era today? So for historical context, we had the Industrial Revolution that catalyzed a lot of inventions and beefed up a lot of technological advancements to get to where we are today. So after that happened, we had World War I with having frequencies being everywhere. That was by Marconi. Also, when I bring up well-known topics, I do like making metaphors to previous geniuses, such as philosophers, physicists, authors, designers, you name it, okay? So some people may be on their phones, others may be on laptops or computers, and this is all because of coding. So coding is basically the hack of today's digital era, and it's the purpose of classifying or identifying data. So you can think of a computer code which builds up an app or a product, such as the DNA code that builds up the human body, right? So coding is today's hack within the digital era that basically its purpose is to classify and identify data, such as apps, games, hacking into different aspects of repositories. And relative to that, coding can also be the DNA structure. So A, T, C, G, U, and whatever other structures we have builds up to compose what we have called humans. You, okay? Your DNA structure. So the main things that coding is used for today is artificial intelligence, apps and websites. Machine learning is a new form of coding, which is really cool. Look into it. Going on in this course, you can probably get to a step ahead of creating your own form of technology. Make it disruptive, okay? So what is coding? So coding is computer coding, which such as computer science, is basically languages that communicate with each other to transcribe an end product. For example, the three main languages that I like using, because it was the first languages that kind of made more sense to me, and it was keeping up with modern techniques such as HTML, JavaScript, and CSS. So these three languages, although they are different, they intertwine with each other to create an end product. And what's really good about this is that you can come up with particularly anything. So the main languages that I'm going to be going throughout these courses with you all are HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, right? And these three are really cool because they communicate with each other within the same DOM. And a DOM is basically a document object model. Don't worry, I'm going to go through further explanations as I go on, but this is just to let you guys get like a little synopsis of what we're gonna go through. So we're gonna use these three languages to build our first website, right? And we're gonna start off a little slow, so bear with me. I'm gonna try to post like at least once every week or two, right? So I'll keep it at that. So yeah, so let's start. First, we're gonna start with HTML, okay? So this whole video here is strictly HTML. And if I say anything that you may have like missed out on or anything, just go into the PowerPoint presentations. They're actually Google documents, but just go into the presentations and they'll give further explanations of everything that I've said or am going to say, okay? Okay, so first we're gonna start off with what is HTML. HTML is basically an acronym that stands for Hypertext Markup Language, right? And what this basically is it's the basic structure of things that we interact with every day. So if you're going onto a site such as YouTube, hopefully I have the rights to say YouTube, but if you're going onto YouTube, everything you see from the icons, the text, the images, the links, all of that is HTML, right? And then when it comes to CSS will basically be like the design. So like the creative pop-ups, the way transitions may happen when you click from one page to another. And also that correlates with JavaScript because JavaScript is what makes it interactive. So let me break this down for you all a little bit more. These three languages, HTML, JavaScript, and CSS, right? And why do we have them? Think of it like this. So you as a human being, right? You're composed of many, many elements and structures. But we'll start off from the base, which are your bones. So can't see my bones even though I'm kind of skinny, but your bones are the structure that keeps you up, right? So on a website, HTML is just the backbone of the website that allows a browser to render information, right? Then we got to get to the meat and the juices, right? So when I say that, not literally, but your organs, your tissues, your features, all of that is CSS. CSS is an acronym for cascading style sheets. So you can combine design and style, and you can just think of CSS as the design of coding, right? And then we have JavaScript. So once you have the meat and bones, you can't be stiff, right? Because a stiff website or a stiff person is not really fun to interact with. So JavaScript allows you to move, maneuver, and just be able to make things more personal for the human eye, right? And that also goes into like UX and UI, which is design talk for user interface and user experience, but we'll save that for another video. So let's start with the bones of our website. So HTML is basically the structure of a browser. And within this browser, we have things called tags. So what tags are, So within this structure, we have things called tags. So tags really just look like this. So just put this here for a second. So really there's like two different main types of tags. You have your opening tag, which look like that, and then you have your closing tags. So an easy way to remember which is which is that opening is just 2 carets and a closing tag has like that slash over there. But what's cool about HTML is that main tags, they open like this, so like an image tag per se, right? if you have an image tag, you can automatically close it off like that and just put your information within the middle. But we'll stick with basic tags. So, what's cool about tags is that for coders, you see them within the text editor. So that's the main piece that we need in order to actually have our code to work. But before I get into text editors, let me just continue on tags. So tags are seen throughout the text editor. They can be different colors based if you have set like schemes, but they typically, like text editors typically color them differently from actual code so you don't get mixed up. And then another really cool thing is that tags are only within the text editors. They don't really show up on the website. So like for example, if I have an image tag, right? The tag and the actual source of information are different. The source will show, but the tag is just there for you to know where did you put the source within your text, right? And then that leads us on into a text editor. So text editors are a way for coders to edit, modify, change, delete, share code with other coders, and also work on their own code. So a few cool text editors are Sublime Text. I think the most recent one right now is 3. If you're watching this video in the near future, it's probably Sublime 4. But relative to today, Sublime 3 is the most recent and up-to-date one. VS Code, that's what I'm using right now. So if you want to download VS Code, it's for both Windows and Mac. I'm coding from a Mac, so I'm gonna just stick with VS Code. There's other cool text editors like Atom, which is really cool, and whatever you may feel comfortable with. But the top 3 that I would suggest is VS Code, Sublime Text 3, and Atom, okay? So before we actually go on to a text editor, I'm gonna download it with you guys. I'm just gonna go over and like show you the text editors. So like when you download it, you know which ones to download. So for example, Sublime Text, I'll start with that one. To make it easier, just put 3 at the end and it'll give you the automatic one. Go to download Sublime Text. So if you have Mac, make sure you update your terminal or like your software so it'll work correctly. If you have Windows, they are updated based by versions, so make sure you also update your Windows. So you just click whichever one, it'll download it for you. It should just pop up on the bottom and just follow those next steps. Atom would look like this. You go to atom.io, and then this is really cool. So that OctoCat is actually from GitHub, and within GitHub, I'll be sure to show you guys how to be able to make pull requests, push into directories that are on a tree branch, and I'm gonna go through all this terminology with you. So this is Atom, and I have VS Code, but it looks somewhat like this. Visual Code. And then as you're going, just make sure you download the real ones. So download for Mac, that's what I'm gonna do. Let's say I quote unquote did that already. So what you should do when you first start is create a repository. So all your information and like images and like your structure is already set for you, so you don't have to go and do it so you don't have to go and do it later on in the future, right? So because I have VS Code already, I'm just gonna open up a new one. But before that, I'm gonna make a folder. Excuse my desktop, I'm working on a lot of things. So I'm just gonna name this Code.MOe, like Code Lyoko, but I don't think a lot of you guys are gonna catch on to that, so it's okay. So within Code.MOe, I'm just gonna build a basic structure. Let's start with HTML, right? So I'll probably just make a folder and name it, what should I name this? It's okay. I'll just leave the index file within the main folder. And with that being said, I'm gonna need a source folder. So let's just start now. But source is basically where like images, text, I lied. Well, if you have fonts, then you can add your own text fonts. But mostly images and audio files go, so you can be able to access them when you were looking for a path, right? So I'm gonna just name this folder source. Just do everything now. So within source, I'm just create a new folder. One of the folders is gonna be called images. Another folder would be called audio, just in case if I want to do an audio segment. Okay, so the easiest way to make sure all your code is in the same place is to just drag it. So I'm gonna drag my folder onto VS Code. And voila. So the first step is there, right? VS Code gives you a lot of information on like downloading extensions and things of that nature. We can go into extensions, but that's just a whole another level that we're not gonna tap into right now. We're just gonna do a basic hello world. I like being different and creative, so I'm gonna be sure to use different terminology that previous instructors may have used, but making sure we're going on the same lines. So I'm just gonna create a new file. If you're on Sublime Text, on the bottom, well, any text editor per se, right? So if you're on a text editor, just make sure on the bottom right-hand corner, it shows what languages that you can use. We're just gonna stick with HTML. So just make sure it's the HTML document, and you will know this because it changes by color, right? So let's go through the basic structure of the HTML document. You have the DOM. So now we can talk about the DOM, right? So this here is basically the DOM. It's a document object model that holds all your content for what you want to show on a browser, and then it renders it for you so it looks alive. Let me stop. So, within the DOM, you have tags that are really, really important that you cannot forget about, okay? So, we'll start with Doctype. So, Doctype is basically just there to let the computer know what language you're using. We're using HTML, so I'm just gonna do Doctype and then add HTML on the side, right? A lot of the times you don't have to worry about the pop-ups that come up. It can just be like definitions of tags or different elements that you're using. And a lot of the times it's just for shortcuts, because I know a lot of people don't like opening and closing tags a lot, but it is really good practice. So I think mine is set up to just finish it off for you, but I typically open and end my tags so I know what I'm doing and where I'm going. So let's start with the Doctype. It should always look like this. Everything else goes in between it. So let's say for your bone structure, your head to your toe, right? So then speaking about head to toe, within your Doctype, you then have the head. So within the head, you just add head. Oh, and it closed it off for me, so that's really good. Oh, I'm sorry, before I forget, even though we did say, like we specify that it's an HTML document, a lot of the times you still have to add an HTML tag. So just open this up and put it back here, well down here. Just some coding etiquette, making sure your tags are aligned are very important. So like my Doctype is aligned here, For HTML, it's aligned right here, and then my head is over here, right? So I have my head, and then my quote-unquote toe, right? So within the toe, I was about to type toe. I have my body, right? So let's differentiate it like that. So your head will basically be like your brain of the computer code, and your body is everything that shows, right? You know your head is within your, you know your brain is within your body, but technically it's like its own entity, right? So that's how we'll think of it. So let me just fix some formatting. So I have my Doctype, my HTML tags, my head tag, and my body tag. So this is just the basic structure of what every HTML document should have. So I'm just gonna save it real quick so I know what kind of file it is. What should I call it? I don't know, guys, give me a name. Even though it's kind of late because I'm technically not live right now. So let's go with quantum. I don't know, I'm a nerd. I like nerds, be a nerd. But quantum, right? We're gonna just call this document quantum.html, and this is my index file. You can also name it index.html because a lot of times it won't pop up, so let me just change it. Sorry, quantum. We can use Z for another time. So just index.html. Also make sure it's lowercase. So index.html. Now let's start off with the brain, right? The head. So within the head, let's title this index quantum. So we can do that. So title is a tag, right? You can honestly title it whatever you want. This quantum, the title aspect here is what shows up as, let me see right now. It's like you see, let's actually look up quantum mechanics, one of my favorite topics. So within quantum mechanics, everything we see here now, like from the text to images and all that, that's rendered from a HTML document. I'm hoping they use HTML. There's another language called React that I'm gonna get into with you all later on. That's what I'm doing right now for app making. But let's just stick to what we were just talking about. So like you see how the title here says quantum mechanics within the tab? This is what shows up as the title screen, right? You can also add an image, but we'll go into that a little later. Let's just make sure we have the basics down packed and that we can actually make it pop up onto the screen. So, quantum, so I have my title. You can put a lot of other things in here, but we'll just stick with that. So tags that are really important that we're gonna talk about are text tags and image tags. So let's start with that. So you know how you write an essay, right? And then you have to have your heading, and you go down to your paragraphs, making sure they make sense and they connect with one another. Coding is basically the same thing per se. So like, let's say you're on Microsoft, right? Or like a Google Doc. If you drop down where it says titles, then you see like header 1 is mad big, and then like it goes down to header 2, header 3, header 4, and so on to header 6. Header 6 would be the smallest. So the DOM, the document object model that we're into right now, automatically has its definitions for these tag elements. So if I just put H1 per se, I'm gonna try to be professional, so let's stick with quantum mechanics, right? So let's say galaxies, Laniakea. So Laniakea, right? H2 can be the Milky Way, because within there is the Milky Way, which is our solar system. H3 can be what's our solar system? Well, I think the Milky Way is our solar system. So let's say Earth, right? Then within H4, We can say continent, H5, continent. I think I spelled that right. Okay, from continent, now we have country, right? And then let's say we're in America. H6 would just be like, H6 would just be city or state. I'm gonna just stick with state for now, because there's also another tag which is known as the P tag, the paragraph tag. So the paragraph tag would just be city or neighborhood or hometown, okay? So the P tag, it's its own little special tag. And we'll name it, I'm not gonna give my information away, so just put city, okay? So now just save. Make sure you save every few minutes so your code is like up to date and you don't lose whatever you put. Because like you remember back in the days before we had like Google spreadsheets, and we had to use Microsoft and like that little, the Windows pin that used to be there. This is for like the 90s babies. Sorry, I got a team. Okay, so like yeah, so to get back on topic, right? And like used to write a whole essay, save it and all that. But then when your computer shuts off or like something happened and you and you just wake up to hoping that your document is still there, but because technology wasn't as advanced back then, you had to write the whole essay over. So like that happened to me a few times. I was really fed up because I would write paragraphs or pages at a time and then have to redo them over because my computer shut off. So even though technology is advanced now, just make it a good habit to keep on saving your work, right? So now we have these. So these are just text tags. Make sure you memorize the structure again. So you have your Doctype. Within your Doctype, your entity, you have your HTML. That's the language you're using. So the language would be HTML, okay? But you know how earlier I mentioned CSS and JavaScript? All of those can also go into this one DOM because they communicate well with each other. Just like French, Spanish, and Italian, I believe, were the Romance languages. Yeah, let's just say it's that. So, let's go on. So I have these there. I'm gonna save. What's really cool is that I believe from here, I could probably just, no, it doesn't show over here. So see, as I save it, I'm gonna just go back into my folder again, and then I see, let me delete this one so it don't take up space. Okay. So my HTML document is here, and I'm just gonna go to basic open with. If you have Chrome, do use Chrome. I'm gonna explain why. If you have Safari or Mozilla Firefox or anything else, it's okay. Just make sure you understand your browser because HTML is specific per browser, okay? So I'm gonna open it in a Google. Oh, it works. Of course it's gonna work. But just open it up, and like as you can see, my H6 tag is actually really small, which is the state. And then my H1 tag is Lani Akia. If you don't know what that is, look it up. It's really cool and would make you have more of a growth mindset about reality around us, right? And then my P tag is the basic, I believe this is 12-point font. My AP professor has like made me write a lot of essays so I can tell font sizes. Okay, how you be like single space or not? These are clearly not single spaced. But then my P tag is just city, right? So I have that down packed. And that should just be like the basics of making sure your hello world or your website is actually working, right? So just to recap, a few of the cool things that we learned is that we have 3 main languages that we're going to go throughout this course. HTML, which what we did right now. CSS is the design, and JavaScript, which is the interaction between all these languages, right? So we downloaded a text editor. I'm using VS Code, so if you want to use VS Code, hey, join the bandwagon. I don't care. I mean, I do care, but you know what I mean. And then, so that's the start of it. We're gonna go into more tags. I guess I can keep continuing. And then, so now you just have a static website. When I say static, I mean like just you from your developmental stage. You're the only person that could really see it unless someone's like hacking into your computer, but that's something else. So you are the only one that can see your code right now. And I say right now because coding is open source. Open source meaning anyone can feel free to take, change, modify, that was redundant, and just keep adding on to what previous people have created and put into this tech environment. So it is open source. If you don't want your code to be seen, GitHub is public. You can pay for private repositories. I believe it's like $7 a month. But I use Bitbucket. Don't ask me why. Let me stop. I use Bitbucket because it's a private repository, and I want my code to be saved on a cloud storage. But at the same time, I don't want other people to see my code because I'm creating an app right now, and it's almost done. I guess I could just like do some short promo right now. So my app is called 90s Crazy, and basically what I want to do is increase people's cognitive abilities in fun ways, such as like this tech video here. But this is more with the memory. So I've been a fanatic of neurons for like 5 years plus, just relative to quantum mechanics, like how neurogenesis occurs, how synapses get stronger, the same way with how our solar systems expand and how gravitational pulls may have an effect. Like they're all relative to each other. But to stay on topic and not lose everyone, because I know being a nerd is a hard job. I forget where I was at. Let me just save this. Oh yeah, so we downloaded a text editor, great. We're also, so we downloaded a text editor, which is great, but we're also gonna use the terminal. So the terminal is another way for computer programmers to pull and push their work onto a branch. So for example, the terminal is used for hackers. I keep saying hackers. The terminal is used for coders to look into directories. So our directory here would actually be our directory is called Ms.MOe, and the index file is in here, and then we have like a few sources. But this is really cool because you can do all this from the terminal. So let me just show you guys really quick what the terminal looks like. Sorry, I have like old code on this. Just fixing my app. So this right here is called a terminal, right? So the terminal is here to basically be like the mailman behind the computer screen. I think that's a good metaphor, because it goes around digging into people's inboxes and transferring data, looking for information, and all cool sorts of things. So for example, we're gonna go through some coding language, but one language you should know is CD. So CD is basically saying to look into a certain directory. So I'm going to CD Ms.MOe. All right. Once I press enter, oh, I'm sorry. So you gotta always make sure you go to the location where your directory is. So for me, it's my desktop, so I'm gonna CD the desktop. Oops, sorry. CD desktop, I'm in there now. Now I'm gonna CD Ms.MOe because now it knows where I'm going. So now I'm into Ms.MOe, And then I'm just gonna list. ls is basically to list everything that's within your folders. So I'm gonna list. All I have here is my index, HTML, and my source folder, right? It's not gonna show me what's in my source folder until I cd my source folder, okay? So that's just the terminal. We're gonna get into that once we touch on to GitHub and Bitbucket. I have my repository, which is Ms.MOe, right? This is another way to look at it. I have my text editor, which is VS Code. And now I actually have my static website. So I have my title up here, Code Quantum Mo, and then my H1, H2, H3, H4, H5, H6, and my P tag. And that's just the start for this episode, okay? So see you next episode.